Welcome, we are back with another series of Zero to Hero, Healer Edition. We've tanked our way to Keystone Hero and we've sliced our way through on DPS, but now it's time to do the hard part, get Keystone Hero as a healer. Just a little side note before we kick things off. These videos are purely for entertainment. I may flame a few people, but it's all in good fun. I'm also terrible at this game, so before you go in the comments and type some stuff, take a long hard look in the mirror and realise this is why you don't get invited to parties. What? Now we got that out of the way, let's lay down some ground rules. No gold transfers, no logging onto my alts to help me with repairs. If I'm low on cash, I gotta suffer and start doing some digital slavery, aka mining and herbing. No Raider IO connection. This means I can't go around flexing my inflated IO rating. I gotta keep it blank so it looks like I've never played the game before. But we won't need to worry about that because my gameplay will speak for itself. Last but certainly not least, this is a solo journey, so no hitting up my Discord to ask for a carry. I gotta ride this ship alone, and if it fails and sinks, I'm gonna go down with it. Now the foundation's laid out, let's jump into some dungeons. I'm just gonna come out and say it. I'm suffering big time. I thought if I named my character Bless Up, it would give me some divine power, but no. Instead, it's giving me teammates who don't even know how to press a defense button. But to be fair, my healing was a bit of an issue as well. The main mechanic of Priest is keeping atonement on all your teammates, and then just deal damage. But if you remember the good old days of my Mistweaver, you know my renewing mist up time was shocking. So this means I'm going to be struggling a lot. Just like on the first boss, I had zero planning going into this boss, so during the intermission I had nothing to help out my team. If this key was any higher, my group would have collapsed. The second intermission was just as bad. People was running out my range and I had no idea if the damage I was doing to the boss was actually healing my group, because during this phase he's meant to be immune. Despite the dreadful healing, no one actually died.
Are you sure about that?
Well, not until the last bit of the fight, but we don't talk about that. This dungeon only gets worse from here too. Because I don't have an interrupt, I knew this climb was going to be a pain in the ass. I'm normally the one to interrupt this stuff, so when it actually goes out, I'm not used to the effects. This volley perfectly lines up with the swirl mechanic. So I got slowed, and having no insane movement mechanics, I got hit by the swirl and died. The exact same thing happened on the next pack too. Fucking can't do this, bro. Can they fucking interrupt? And when I saw there's only been a grand total of 8 interrupts this entire dungeon, I just knew we was in for a good one. If your group can't even interrupt mechanics, how do you expect them to do actual mechanics on the boss? If I was an actual gamer, I could have been able to heal this boss, plus do the B mechanic. But only being on healer for like 12 minutes, there's only so much a guy can do. I slightly got used to doing both on the second attempt, but we still got overwhelmed. All I had to do was destroy the barrels. I was getting overwhelmed. They was making it 10 times harder than it needed to be. I can't heal and do the bees at the same time. I just can't. I can't. I don't have the eye level and I don't have the confidence. I don't even know half my buttons. I'm still learning. We was slowly building up that knowledge, but once we got to the Zav wing, it all went out the window. My tank rushed ahead before we've even finished off the last mob, so his big AoE came out and blasted us down. I did manage to recover, but once I did, my brain just shut off and I forgot what button to press. So instead, I just slowly watched myself die. I pressed my health pot. I've definitely pressed my health pot. Ain't no way I didn't press it. Zav didn't go any better either. Honestly, this was just embarrassing. I still don't even know what I was doing wrong. First we lost our mage, this meant we had no one to kill the banner. And again, with no fancy movements, I just died. Again, I'm dead. And again. I can't do anything. That was the only issue I really had in this dungeon. The rest of it went smooth, so we easily timed it with 5 minutes to spare. I'm him. This is really hard. When I was playing Mistweaver, I was used to being in melee, so I was like following people around a lot, so it was easier. But now that I'm ranged and like when people start ticking health, I don't know what buttons to press. I just kind of watch them die, and I don't know if I'm meant to use penance on the enemies or am I meant to save it for when my teammates take big damage. I don't know. It seems like atonement, when I have atonement on people, the only time when it does like good amount of healing is when I use mind blast and turn into like this void demon. and then Void Blast does like 10% of their health every hit, or maybe 5%. So I really don't know. I'm hoping these guys are decent eye level, so it's not kind of a completely rough one. This dungeon also turned out alright. The first death was because my brain just shut off. I'm too busy thinking about what buttons I need to press that I didn't even realise I was about to die. Oh, whoops. Thankfully, my team was able to hold out and kill the boss, but we did lose our tank in the process. The third boss was easy. The only scary part is when the ad comes out, and the only other scary part on this dungeon was straight after the boss. But it turns out it was actually a breeze. I did need to burn a few cooldowns, however, they're not really needed for the next area, because you can just jump into a bubble and become immortal. The last boss is also pretty straightforward. I even finally got to use my meld tech, where you basically dodge a full mechanic and take 0 damage. The only deadly bit on this boss is when the magnet sucks you in, but as long as you're far away from it, you take insane reduced damage, so this was also a breeze. But now, it's back to pure panicking on a 2 Cinder Brew. I'm dead. Oh, I'm him. Oh shit. Oh, I'm choking. Save me. Something. Do something. What the fuck is going on? We somehow managed to live through that and took out the boss. We had a little bit of a hiccup on the IPA boss, but this has happened to every tank at some point this season. I was also slowly feeling more confident to do mechanics while also still healing. Then we got to the final boss, which was just pure mayhem. Not only did I have to dodge every barrel going off in the room, I had a tank that never lined up his frontal. Instead, it would swing it around the room like he was at some frat party.
Put it away, put it away.
Yo, this guy. But we dodged it and finished off the dungeon. And I thought the next dungeon was going to be the exact same. We only had 2 deaths going into the final boss, but then it all went downhill from here. I don't know why, but this boss was a pain in the ass to heal. I had a tank who was getting himself punched into pools. We got him back up, but me not realizing how big the room was, I ran out of healing range, so he ended up dying. We ran it back, but it was the same thing. But instead of a pool, it was straight off the map this time. And then came the flaming. I was straight up being told to dispel. I'm sorry, but there's only so much I can do. I can't dispel stupidity. The worst thing is though, the tank joined in. But then I felt bad a few minutes later, because it turns out he wasn't actually flaming, but asking a question. I spent so many years playing League of Legends, I forgot the question mark actually means asking a question, and not just being a condescending arsehole. After I realized it was a question, I told him and guided him with pings, like a nice little healer. And honestly, he improved. I can't say the same for my DPS though. They were still getting 100 to 0'd in a matter of seconds. We did try to play it out, but it was a losing battle. I can't do it, boys. I can't do it. These guys are just... I don't know. On the final attempt, we had a minute on the clock. It was time to go big or go home. If we didn't lock in and pump our hearts out, we would have wasted 33 minutes of our lives. But with the skin of our teeth, we finally killed the boss. So all that pain and suffering wasn't wasted. You thought them last few dungeons were rough? Well, you thought wrong. I want to talk about these goddamn prop paladins.
What the hell did I do?
There's a couple of them in the next few dungeons, so let's break each one down. Explain to me how this dude was killing each pack one by one. And I'm not kidding either. This dude was taking it so slow, you could probably stop. But what I just don't get is how he went from doing that to pulling this. Like, what the fuck? And don't even think about going in the comments and saying, this pull isn't that bad. It's dumb. Plain and simple. There's so much unnecessary damage for a measly few percent. This was also back before the Lynx nerf, so yeah, this pull is bad. Don't forget, I've been healing for like 2 hours at this point too, so there's only so much I can do. I knew we was in for a bad time before we even got to Baron, so when we actually got there, panic set in. And it wasn't so bad at first, but when the 5 soak came out on top of Vindictive Wrath, I knew it was GG. They soak too early, and the shield comes out and slows me. My little legs can barely make out of the circle in time, and because I couldn't deal any damage to heal on a group, we all eventually died. And at that point, there was only 9 minutes left in the dungeon, so the key was basically over. So they all just quit. The next dungeon didn't go any better. Dare I say it was even worse. This dude just ran straight in and almost got one-banged. I've not played Prot Paladin all that much, but surely they don't take this much damage. I was fighting for my life trying to keep this dude alive, but he eventually fell over. I was convinced this guy wasn't pressing any buttons, because even with a pain sup, this dude was taking way more damage than I could handle. The pulls he was doing was also next to insane. I mean, I know it's a 2, but 5 assassins, a thug, and a peacekeeper is not your typical pull. And then we got to the first boss, and even during the melee phase, this dude was just getting slapped up. The thing that sucks the most is we nearly finished this whole mechanic, but instead of finishing it off, my 2 melee decided to run away, and the ball blows up, kills my tank, and then we eventually wiped. To rub it in even more, I checked the logs and see my tank only has 4% uptime on Shield of Righteousness. Like, come on. I got tired of 2s at this point, so I finally dipped my toes into some 4s. And I thought it was gonna go better, but no. I have a tank who think he's him, when in fact, he's just a straight up idiot. Not only did he run off and chain pull a super difficult pack, he tanked it in a path where another deadly pack roams, so once them bad boys joined in, it was basically over. I did try some tech where I line of sight any cast being put on me, but I can only keep that up for so long. I did get a res and we did kill this pack, but this pull was not necessary at all. Even the next pull after the first boss was baffling. It went from 100 to 0 in a matter of seconds. For some reason, we pulled this pack, and that just completely threw me off my game. We then ran around the corner to pull another pack, but by the time I got there, not only did my atonement run out, I couldn't even cast my AoE ability because I was afraid I'd be sucked into the death swirl. When I got back, we were still tanking that pack on the stairs, so I couldn't even heal half the group. The 3 main things I drilled into my head when learning this game was don't stand in the bad stuff, interrupt, and never fight on stairs. No one died, but before I could compose myself and figure out which button I put my mass dispel on, the tank was already jumping into the next pack. And I mean, I don't blame him. I do the exact same thing. But damn, give a brother time to catch his breath. Understanding my heal range is becoming a big problem for me. I just keep forgetting if I play too far away, half my abilities won't even land on my teammates, and no atonements on them will always lead to someone dying. But mixing that in with all the other mechanics, plus that annoying ass affix, it's becoming a little bit overwhelming for me. Even though this dungeon was hell, I think it made me more confident. But these sort of pulls are not okay, Mr. Tank. I was slowly getting into a rhythm, but because now I'm doing 4s, there was an affix thrown into the mix, and it was completely throwing me off. Not only did I have to worry about dispelling the affix, I also had 2 Feasting Void to worry about. And I did almost make it through it, but after a while, we died. I have a feeling he's going to chain pull. Oh my god, he is. That's so stupid though. I don't know why he would ever do this. Yeah, the chain pull didn't stop, and it didn't even make any sense either. The dungeon was already failed. Why add more time onto it when you can already see I'm struggling? And then this motherfucker had the audacity to flame me too, but just forgot to mention that I had a warrior only doing 300k damage. Like, what the fuck? Also, this tank was doing some wild pulls and was expecting me to be some god tier healer, but even with 2 hours experience, I thought I was doing a decent job. The embarrassing thing about all this though, once we started the boss, everyone, including the tank, stacked in the middle of the room, leaving me 0 room to do anything. Like, how can you call my healing terrible when you have 0 clue how to play the game? We of course wiped. I mean, I can't heal stupid, but man, people can take 0 accountability on this game. I mean, I know I'm not great at healing, but some of these tanks and some of these DPS have no clue what's going on and just expect you to bail them out. We finished the dungeon, but I'm so worked up writing the script, I'm just going to end it here, because even the next dungeon was so tilting. If you want to see me rant some more and die 1,000 more times, then tune in next time. And as always, if you like the content, subscribe. If you made it this far, we already know you like the content, so subscribe anyway. Like, comment, all of that good stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. Welcome, we are back with another episode of Zero to Hero, Healer Edition. Last episode was crazy. The support, the comments, the chaos, I absolutely loved it. Just a heads up though, these recordings are a little bit delayed, so you might not see your tits in action just yet, but sometimes it's good to learn the basics on your own and then polish it up once you've got that down. This episode is gonna be a little bit different than the first, but don't worry, we're still gonna see some terrible healing, questionable gameplay, and teammates raging, even though we still easily two-chested it. Oh, and that's all within the first few minutes, and then we're gonna take a dive into the struggles I've been having and how we're gonna overcome them. So, if you got a spare 10 minutes, and I'm sure if you're a DPS main you have a spare hour sat in them endless queues, hey, maybe this will even inspire you to reroll. With all that said, let's dive into our first dungeon of the day, a 4 Mechagon. You already know you're in for a rough dungeon when you wipe on the very first obstacle. All the interrupts are up, yet no one's even bothering to stretch their fingers over to press it. We all make mistakes though, just like me on the first boss. First, I'm gonna let it play out, and then I'll talk over it because I kinda trigger my teammate with this play. But I swear, there's more to it if I just walk you through my thought process. I know some people can get triggered easy. I was a victim of it in the last episode, when I thought that dude was being condescending, but it turns out he was asking a question. But on this one, I was just stating what I saw. I wasn't trying to throw anyone under the bus. Of course we wiped, and I get flamed. I then explained what happened, and then this warlock thought I was straight up blaming him, but I wasn't. I was just saying what happened to me. He was still waffling a few minutes later, and he was right about the second box, but that first one was just BS. Let me get a VAR on that one. So, yes, Jeff. He's looking like he's getting behind the box, but is he onside? Who knows? Let's find out.
After review, there was no offside offense.
I knew I was behind that box. A few years go by and I'm on my third kid, and this dude is still yapping. But we continue and get on with it like normal adults. But this game is still finding ways to embarrass me.
After review, there was no offside offense.
We killed the boss and the rest of the dungeon was smooth, but we're gonna get a little bit shameless and bag on this warlock for calling me clueless. Instead of just making a portal here, instead he ran directly into the pack and died. Ha! Clueless. We timed the dungeon and I decided to do one more just before I head off for the night. And for the life of me, I couldn't keep this paladin alive on the first boss in Priory. No matter what I pressed, this dude's health bar just wasn't going up. I know for a tank this boss can be rough. You're basically getting hit with bleeds and tank busters 24/7. We did almost kill the boss, but on the last 15%, our paladin finally fell over. We ran it back one more time, but the fight was already over before it even started. Not having any cooldowns left on me or Paladin, it was gonna be rough to keep this dungeon alive. And that was my first 24 hours as a healer. There's a few things I've been struggling with, and we're gonna address them. The first one is making a sound effect for when I use PI. The lack of PIs I'm sending out is just embarrassing. The second one is my drip. It's time for a makeover. If you're not dressed for the part, how the hell are you going to improve? The head isn't working. That's better, but still not it. Mwah. Perfect. Now we're dressed apart, let's jump into a 5 cinder brew. And honestly, it didn't change much. My dumbass was still forgetting to pop PI. Hell, I didn't even get round to using it until the first boss. But this is a sound effect we went with.
Aw, crap.
I also just realized that we both get the PI effect. And with this newfound realization, I was sending that shit on cooldown.
Aw, crap.
Even with the PIs out, I was struggling to heal on this first boss. It didn't help that almost every ability was aimed at me. I mean, I know I'm looking good now, but can you please focus your attention on someone else? I'm already struggling as it is. I did feel more confident in the packs that I used to find scary. Maybe I was finding people who actually pop defensives. The packs were also dying fast, so maybe that was a bit of the reason. Hell, even the tank thought my healing was decent because he had no problems pulling this entire boss room. Normally, I would have crumbled, but as long as I'm keeping Atonement on everyone and spamming Mind Blast on CD, we are bing chilling. Despite all that though, I was still dying due to being slowed by an ability that can be interrupted. Use your goddamn interrupts, people. They saves lives. They saves lives. What? They save lives. Someone did comment saying I'm not meant to be the one doing the bee mechanic, but if everyone's healthy and I have a window to do it, I would try and squeeze one bee in. The rest of the dungeon was smooth, so we easily timed a 5-cinder brute with 6 minutes to spare. We also had a vault to open. I could either take the set piece helm or go for the big damage boost with the weapon, but I thought I had a better idea. So I went into a delve, got the bounty, only to receive another hero track helm. So my idea had failed. I then went back to the vault, collected my dagger, and turned my helm into a set piece. And then catalyst my hero boots, but my small ass brain just forgot boots are not a part of the tier set bonus. So I just completely wasted a catalyst charge. Wait, boots are not a tier set? What? Oh. Am I dumb? Since when a boot's not tier set? Oh. We all have our moments, but most people don't document them to the entire world. Despite having brain damage, we still figured out how to join a dungeon. However though, it didn't go that well. Our tank thought it would be a good idea to pull this pack. And don't get me wrong, I pull way more than this normally, but I just don't tank it here, and I bet you already guessed why. Yep, that roaming pack obviously got dragged into the mix. If I was better at this game, I would have popped a penance up and prayed that my tank could have survived this. Instead, I panicked, tunnel visioned on F1's health bar, and just kept spamming Mind Blast and Void Blast, hoping they would live. But sadly, they didn't. But the fact that he asked why did we pull a roaming pack is just insane to me. He also wasted no time pulling the same amount after everyone used their cooldowns. It probably would have been fine, but I was panicking and cancelled my AoE to put atonement on everyone. So every bit of damage I was doing wasn't even healing anybody. We ran it back for the 3rd time and the same thing almost happened again, but thankfully the sharpshooter jumped into us, but the pack was still inches from being pulled. We did end up pulling her 2 nights after this, but having time to think and space to move, it was actually a lot easier this time. We had one more major fuck up just before the first boss. Again, we tanked another pack in a bad spot, a big ability comes out and someone accidentally butt pulls a pack that stood 15 feet away. I tried my best to top everyone up and stabilize the pack, but I ended up getting a bit of aggro and slapped in the head from miles away. And of course, the tank is still blaming everyone else. Despite them big mistakes early in the dungeon, we still managed to time the key with 5 minutes to spare. And even though I do get annoyed about these dungeons, these are the type of ones where you grow as a player. I don't know if my HPS was good. Let's see what atonement was like. 72% uptime. Is that good? I feel like that's good. That fucking tank, I swear. See how many interrupts people did. He was terrible, man. He was terrible. He was like telling people not to butt pull, but then it'd like tank the pack in the worst place possible and then blame the team. I don't know. It was very weird. It was very weird. I'm just going to let these next few clips play out because I don't even know what I'm doing wrong. It just feels like I'm being targeted by everything. Oh, I'm dead.
Only the strongest survive.
Fuck me, this is hard to heal. Why do I keep getting targeted though? The only other deaths that happened in this dungeon were ones that I don't even think I could have prevented. Hell, some of these were just unbelievable. But despite all that, we still kept trucking away, and we finished the dungeon with just over a minute to spare. I was feeling confident now, and we are finally doing 6s. But I feel I can push higher, but I just need that little bit of gear boost. And there's no better place than tier 11 delves, where even my brand was straight up trolling me.
We're going in!
1 minute we're fighting the underpin. I turn around and that fucker has gone and pulled everyone in the entire area.
Get over here! You got to dodge! Oh, don't go dying on me. Gonna hope that's the last time I end up in this situation.
Fuck you, Bran.
Now, what do you mean by that?
After a few delves, it was time to put our skills to the test. Was I nervous? Yeah. But you're never going to learn if you don't put yourself out there. I knew as long as I had atonement on everyone and spanned my damage abilities off cooldown, everything would be okay. You really don't need to do anything insane. As long as everyone plays their part, you can pretty much do anything. The only deaths that we actually got was 2 during the Zav wing. We took too much time finishing off the mini boss, so our 2 DPS got sliced up in the process. I also died on Zav. For some reason, no one killed the banner, so my slow arse just got stuck in the middle of the room. Someone said in the comments that I can use Fade to get rid of the slow, so next time I will be using that. I was so upset about dying that I didn't even think about what would happen if I instantly accepted the res. Don't you dare. Oh my god. I did learn my lesson and waited on the next time though. The rest of the deaths were just funny. I guess everyone's brain just shut off during the last few percent of gold chop. Everyone got hit by the chains, and I spammed the heals on myself like the selfless healer I am, and thankfully we finished it before we fully wiped. The next few were just annoying. I don't even know how I could have stopped this. Normally, when I play tank, I just try and aggro at F1 and reach the end of the room before the cast even begins. But as a healer, I don't have a single clue what I gotta do. The remaining deaths was when our hunter got blasted in the face by the giant frontal. You'd think he'd blow us away and learn from his mistakes, but no, he got blasted in the face yet again. We still carried on without him, and we finally managed to time our first 7. I mean, it's not insane, but it's progress. We also got some massive upgrades from this dungeon too, so in the next episode, we're going to be insanely strong. That's very good. We got our best in slot ring. Not only we get best in slot ring, we also have enough crest to craft our item. I took our new weapon to the dummies, and let's just say our damage is big now. Big damage also means big heals, so if you like the healing content, hit the subscribe button. If you made it this far, we already know you like the content, so subscribe anyway. Like, comment, all of that good stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. Welcome, welcome. We are back with another episode of Zero to Hero, Healer Edition. I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. The good news is the content is fully up to date now. The clips you've been watching so far was filmed over a month ago. The bad news though is that I'm terrible again. Not going to go into my personal life because that's not what the channel is about. But let's just say I've not played in over a month. Honestly, I didn't expect people to enjoy this class so much. It's been popping off and I'm really grateful for that. I've also finally put your tips into action, setting up a feather macro and getting this weak aura for my PI. Enough of the yapping. Let's kick things off with a 7 workshop. This is the last dungeon you'll see that was filmed over a month ago, but the next couple are all fresh, I promise. Honestly, this dungeon I actually felt like a healer. Everything was going smooth, the healing was about to be dished out, and then poof, instant death. Now, I normally brag about having 200 MS, but sometimes I go back to being an average Joe, and instead of reacting to my teammates dying, I just sit back and watch them slowly die a painful death. But when I'm in the thick of it, I'm just on fire. Every ability is going out, except for my shield ability. I was hoping no one would catch on, but sadly, someone did notice. And I know what you're gonna say, stop being a But it just goes back to when I played Mistweaver. My renewing mist uptime was just awful, even though it was one of my main abilities. This is something I'm going to improve on, but not in this episode. Maybe in the next? Who knows? Cujo was a lot easier this time. I just wasn't getting cooked by the broken arse line of sight. The only other death that happened was during the maze bit. Me and the tank kept failing, and I guess our paladin grew a little bit impatient and decided to try and take on the pack by himself. Let's just say it didn't succeed. I also finally had my true god tier healer moment on the 3rd boss. Both my DPS ended up getting tagged by the beam, and I know from personal experience that dot hits like a truck. So I wasted no time sending both my pain subs on them. They both lived and I felt like God himself. Bless up. I know I said there was no more deaths in this dungeon. What can I say? I love to lie, but there was nothing I could do about these deaths. One minute he was alive and the next minute he wasn't. And what the hell can I do when my tank gets yeeted off the map? Yeah, I could have gripped him, but I'm not having talented into that. I also said I wanted to show my talents in this episode, so for you priest mains out there, this is what I'm rocking. Is it good? Is it bad? I have no idea. I just closed my eyes and spam clicked. We ended up living without the tank and closed out the dungeon. We got no loot, but we did have 2 vaults to open. Okay, so I've not played in like a month and a half, so I've got a lot of stuff to catch up on. This was the perfect welcome back dungeon, getting thrown into a 7 with some heavily undergeared dudes. My only saving grace was this warlock, but even if he pumped, I still had to heal. and getting thrown into Floodgate on my very first one was not ideal. As you can tell by the first pull, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. My positioning was bad and I forgot half my buttons, but I didn't die, and that's the main thing. Yeah, we may have lost a teammate, but that dude is 624 eye level and an Augervolker, so who actually cares? The only hard part about this dungeon was the bosses. They was long, and my teammate could not dodge a giant ball for the life of him. I was fine in the jump start phase, but once that was over, the real dead mechanic was back. The giant ass ball. The first boss was down and things were going good. Then we got to the architects. Flying over to the next area, I was thinking, okay, I'm assuming this is going to be a double pull, because this guy likes to go big or go home. But what I didn't expect was for this dude to straight up aggro the architect without even knocking him down first. Then he jumped straight into the other pack. Now, this maybe could have been fine, but when the Kelp boys came in and gratted F1 down, I was just left in pure confusion.
That was a dreadful pull. What the fuck was that? How the hell did the Kelps pull? What the fuck was that? We gotta kill the... What?
Now the easy part is out the way, let's get to the hard part. The second boss was a pain in the ass. Because the dot does so much damage and these dudes are so heavily undergeared, I basically have no time to react before they instantly die. It was good when the second dude died because I knew for sure we would have it in the bag. Yeah, it may have taken a bit longer, but it was way easier to heal. The swamp boss for me was the hard part of the dungeon. My healing output just wasn't enough during the splishy wacky whack phase, so we lost one of our DPS. This also meant I got the chain mechanic, which I completely forgot about, so naturally when it came out I moved to my little safe area, completely forgetting I'm now a victim and need to move with my team, so bam, the first wipe was on me.
Closer to that side.
The second try was just pure agony. I'm just gonna let the clip roll so you can judge my amazing healing. Yeah, I know I didn't use my shield enough, but can someone at least tell me what the number means above the ability? We tried to make up the time and skip bubbles, but as expected, it didn't go that well. The final boss wasn't so bad for me. I know the damage pattern because of the so many failed attempts I did on the very first episode. I was also slowly getting used to my buttons again, so muscle memory kicked in a bit. We didn't time this key, but it's a nice way to kick off the return to healing.
Easy. Wasn't even hard.
Stop the cap.
That was fucking solid. Ugh, hated every moment of it.
Healing 630 and 624 eye level people when they're barely doing half my damage. Well, just over half my damage is completely insane. When there's a lot of stuff going on and I need to like get in the correct position, I'm just not locked in. I've not played a video game for a month and a half. So my just spatial awareness, I guess, is terrible. Being in the right spot is a really slept on thing. Making sure you position correctly can be a massive game changer. It can be used to line of sight abilities or make it so you can avoid spells so you have max uptime on your abilities. What's also a slept on thing is pulling like a normal human being. Like, the pulls I see in these dungeons are just unbelievable. You seriously don't need to pull like a madman in S6. We all make mistakes though, just like me during the second boss. I completely missed the tornado. It didn't help my case that I was the one who marked the spot too.
Are you stupid or something?
But it's fine, because as long as the tank don't panic and walk out of melee, you can easily heal this. Now, it's time for the Candle King, and I'm not gonna lie, I was shitting bricks. This boss requires some big heals, and the healing was good, but for some reason the boss kept targeting the only person who had no clue how to aim the axe. You'd think he'd learn by the third time, but nah, he was still getting yeeted. It didn't really matter though, because the heals were still being pumped out, but at least he figured out how to aim the axe by the end of it.
And he went on, the only person he went on is a guy who didn't know how to do the mechanic.
The rest of the dungeon was pretty straightforward, so we easily two-chested it. It was a new week, so we had another vault to open. We picked up our gloves and turned them into a set piece. But now, it's back to my worst dungeon to heal, a goddamn cinder brew. And straight away I got flamed despite no one dying and pumping out big heals. I still don't have a clue what I'm doing wrong on this first boss. No matter what I do, I still feel like I'm a victim. This new week also meant this annoying ass affix is back. It just comes in at the worst possible time. I managed to get it off my teammates, but because everyone is spread out, I never get the chance to use my mass dispel. I know there's a few classes that can dispel themselves, but I have no idea which ones can actually do it. Despite being a victim on the first boss, I didn't officially become one until we got to the next area. I don't really know what killed me. A bunch of damage hit me all at once and I just died. My next death again was because my lack of spatial awareness. Planting myself in a bad spot with a terrible camera angle. So once the swirls came down, I couldn't see that I was stood in instant death. The bee boss is becoming easier to heal. I'm still not fully used to healing and doing the bees at the same time, but we are slowly getting there. Sometimes it's just hit or miss if my DPS get the bleed on them. If they do, I need to focus on the heals and pray they do the bees. If no bleed, then we're bing chilling. Now, I'm all for pulling big, but in these sort of keys where not everyone is fully kitted out, there's no point. Even if you can live this pack, doesn't mean everyone else can. You'd think he'd learn and not chain pull once everyone got back, but nah, he charged right on in. Okay, what? Why are we pulling like this? We still timed the key with 3 minutes to spare, and I even got a clickbait for my thumbnail, so it wasn't all bad. And even though my healing is not great, we are still timing these keys. But you can't time every key. This takes us to our next dungeon. Now, I'm going to pause it here. When you see big pull in the chat, what do you think? Now, I thought it was going to be option A, and I was fully prepared for that, but damn, 2 nights are so hard to heal. My dumbass ended up getting holy locks because I forgot my penance takes about 2 years to finish. I could have probably healed this, but again, being in panic mode, I didn't fully see where I was standing, stepped on a bear trap, and bled to death. By the time I returned, my tank instantly dipped. Before I knew it, I was hit with the affix, a tank in Narnia, and blessed with the eyesight of Stevie Wonder. And again, I walked into a trap, died, my tank then gets yeeted, and we wipe. At this point, you'd think, let's take it a bit slower. We've still got a lot of time. But nah, not my tank. He lives life to the fullest. He sees his teammates bleeding to death and thinks, fuck it, let them burn. I want to get smacked in the face. I need to get pounded to death. So yeah, yet again, the affix comes in. I'm in pure confusion. Started getting shot in the face by 4 guns, bit in the ankles by some big cats. We obviously wipe, and instead of just carrying on and taking it slower, my mage instead dips out. 8 workshop.
Calm down.
The scary bit in this dungeon for me is this pull. Overall, it's not too bad. The damage isn't spiky, it's just praying my tank knows what he's doing and doesn't get one banged by the bleed. There can be a nasty overlap if people don't CC the gunk at the right time. If it goes off during the mega drill, that can be a real killer. The healing absorb and the drill damage can get very scary, but as long as I have atonement and spamming my damage abilities, we are usually okay. But this next clip is the example I was talking about. I can heal it, but my tank first needs to live through the gather. I had no pain subs left and he didn't pop brand. And because I didn't set up before the tank, by the time I got there and was ready to go, he was already dead. And again, this just circles back to me not having good positioning. We didn't reset the pack either, so yeah, we wiped again. These dogs are a bit of an issue too. Because they put out a dot on my teammates, it can be hard to manage. I was waiting for an overlap with the dots and the affix so I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, but like the idiot I am, I wasted it before going into this next area. So I got overwhelmed with dots and lost one of my DPS. After our little mishap in the last episode, I'm actually used to fighting Cujo now. The only time when there's some serious damage is straight after you dispel the dot on the tank, so as long as you pump right after that, you can easily do this boss. I again struggled on this mini boss, for no real reason really. I just didn't have atonement on anyone, and I never knew if I had enough time in between each blast to pop my AoE to apply atonement to everyone. But in the end, no one died, so it's not really a big deal. I had the same gamer moment when my warrior got hit by the beam. Again, this boss is a breeze, just don't get hit by the objects flying around and you're basically chilling. And as always, as long as you're in this bubble, it's basically impossible to die.
What? That's bullshit.
With the final boss, the magnet pulling is the scary bit, but as long as you're not stood near the magnet, the damage it puts out isn't that crazy. The only scary moment I had to deal with on this boss was near the end, but I just spread my wings and blessed my teammates with my load.
What did he say?
Pause.
We'll end it on a high note. End it on a 2-chested 8, which is decent considering I'm not that good at healing. I want you to leave a comment to see which one is the best, because at the moment it's up against these 3. But I want a trinket where I don't really need to press a button. It's not like an active one, it's just an equipped one. So whatever gives me the best healing and it's the easiest to use, that is the one I should get. So if you could leave a comment telling me which one's best, then that would be great.
You heard the man. If you know what's best, let me know. I don't plan on playing this character for ages, so anything that gives me big heals is what I want. If you like the content, subscribe. If you made it this far, we already know you like the content, so subscribe anyway. Like, comment, all of that good stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. Welcome, welcome. We are back with another episode of Zero to Hero. Healer Edition. Right, I think it's time. We've been in limbo now for a few episodes, sticking to our comfort zone, doing 6s and 7s. If we're going to improve, we got to dig deeper. So the goal today is to start pushing 10s. Can we do it? Let's find out.
So I finally got enough gold to enchant my gear, but now this means I'm broke. So I have to go back to digital slavery.
Make me the perfect miner, cleaver straight from the core. Callous fists, crystal born, harder than the angel's horn.
In the meantime though, we did pick up our Mr. Pickup trinket and maxed it out, so now we are going into our dungeons looking like this. I know I said I wasn't doing 7s anymore, but come on, this is just a warm-up key. After this, I promise we will go higher. While this amazing healing gameplay is going on in the background, we might as well talk about what's next. We have 2 options, either continue to 3k, or finish up this character and move on to the next one. Leave a comment, let me know which one you prefer, and in the next video, we would choose the winner. The first area went smooth as usual, but for some reason on this pack after the first boss, I just struggle so much. Going into the fight, everyone is always super low due to fall damage. I never have enough time to top everyone up before we start the fight. So we go in, and before I know it, I'm basically already dead. And even when I get back, it's the same thing. I tried to stabilize, but just get blasted in a matter of seconds.
What the fuck?
I know I didn't press any of my defensives, but I just never thought I'd get blasted so fast. The tank lived anyway, so we didn't fully wipe, but it's just strange because this next pack is way easier to heal. I don't know if it's just because I'm expecting more damage, so I'm more focused, or the fact that I'm just not being targeted by every ability all at once. There's also instances where the mob I'm targeting dies and it doesn't automatically switch me to the next one. I'm used to playing melee, so this is kind of new to me. The next boss went fine and we had plenty of time going into the next area. I also learned that the debuff that the Ascendant puts out is a heal absorb, so as long as I'm pumping just before it goes out, I don't need to be worried about mass dispelling. I can just keep throwing my abilities and hoping for the best. But there is situations like this where it gets a little overwhelming, and I die. We still had plenty of time going into the final boss, and I was also starting to understand this boss more too. I do have trouble getting my atonement on everyone, but that's partly due to them stood way too far away. We still 2-chested the dungeon without any problems, and I even got a trinket, which I thought was an upgrade, but my teammate decided otherwise, and before I knew it, I was getting hunted down with pitchforks. They apologized though, and I gave him the trinket. We also ended up running another dungeon together, and to be honest, for a 9, it was really easy to heal. This was the only death we had the whole dungeon. I didn't realize my tank ran out of buttons, and instead of hitting him with a paint up and focusing my heals on him, instead I watched him die and ran away like a little bitch. I don't know about you guys, but coming from being a tank main, I just assume the tank never needs me. Yeah, I will throw them a paint up and a shield at the start of a pull, but once they're settled in, I won't really bother with them. I'll throw them a shield just before a tank buster, or if I remember that I have that ability. But in my eyes, tanks like VDH and Blood DK don't really need a healer. Obviously, once we get to the higher keys, they will need some attention, but in these lower ones, they should be fine. This group was good, so we easily timed this key. I also felt more confident healing these higher keys, so we threw ourselves into the deep end for 9 Cinder Brew.
Alright, let's go. I absolutely hate this dungeon, but we're doing it.
This dungeon went from 100 to 0 really fast. The first area we didn't really struggle with. Yeah, I still have no clue what to do during the intermission, but no one died and we cleaned out the first boss.
Then we got to this part. The Africs came in, and instead of using my Mass Dispel, I got greedy and wanted to save it for the next pack. But before I knew it, I was getting blasted down and I died. I sat there waiting for a battle res, but it never came, so we eventually wiped. The pack also didn't reset. We tried to stabilize it, but with enemies coming from every angle, it was pretty much impossible.
Don't run in if you can't survive it and I'm not there, mate. Okay?
In this next clip, I just let it play out, because I seriously think there was nothing I could have done.
Jesus Christ. Okay, now. No one person interrupted. Holy shit.
This next clip also goes back to what I was saying before. I just don't expect my tank to instantly die when going into the next area. I know the final sting mechanic is coming out, but I just assume he's going to be fine. I also kind of messed up myself by not using a shield on him before my penance, so he died. The B boss was insanely hard to heal. My whole screen was just a sea of red. In the past, I would have just been standing there thinking of what button to press, but not this time. We was dishing out them heals like I was Oprah. You get a heal, you get a heal, everybody gets a heal. It's a shame though, because even after we recovered, we still had a long way to go. And towards the end of the fight, I just had too many bleeds on myself and got blown straight into the Shadow Realm. Despite dying so many times, we were still able to time this key with just under 3 minutes to spare. And we kept that momentum going into a 9 rookery. In the next episode, I do want to do a tier list of which dungeons I thought were hardest to heal. But for now, let's just stick to this one. The first area is rough, but that's not where I struggle. Fighting these damn diffusers is where I struggle. I know there's certain spots where I can line of sight abilities, but because my tank always races ahead, by the time I get there and plant up, the suck mechanic is already wreaking havoc on my entire group. Luckily this time though, I saved my PI, so I had a bit of haste to quickly get my abilities out. So getting through the initial part of the fight, I felt more confident as I settled in. Hell, I even started throwing out abilities I don't normally use, such as Flash Shield and Barrier. The double diffusers, however, didn't go that great. Towards the end of the fight, I again lost focus on my tank's health. Before I knew it, he was 6 feet under. But with a swift battle res, we was able to recover the pack. But sadly, my druid did a runner and line of sighted me. And because I was in panic mode and trying to recover the pack, I wasn't throwing out any damage or heals, so I eventually dropped as well. We didn't fully wipe, and the rest of the dungeon was smooth. But screw them damn diffusers, man. They're impossible to heal. But now that we've timed a few 9s, we finally have a decent IO rating. And it was time to join the big leagues and finally try to heal some 10s. But before we get all excited, I still do my routine eye level check. And once I saw my tank was 684, I just knew this was going to be an easy run. And honestly, it was insanely easy to heal. Hell, I even said it out loud after beating the second boss.
So far so good, no one's died.
But of course, that put a curse on me. So immediately into the next pack, Stevie Wonder decided to pay me a visit, and before I knew it, I was dead. The only other deaths that happened was due to people not playing Mario Kart when they were younger. If you see a bomb, you run. Otherwise, this happens.
Here we go!
Like I said, the tank was so heavily overgeared that the only hard part about this dungeon was realizing that the rest of my journey was never going to be this easy. So yeah, we easily free chested the 10 motherload. We got no loot, but I guess we got some experience into how 10s can be. But let's not stop there, we've got all the other dungeons to plus 10, and there's no better dungeon than the one I've been struggling with the most, a 10 rookery. This group wasn't heavily overgeared, they was all around 660 eye level, so I knew my healing had to be on point, and honestly, I felt a massive difference in this key. Once the localized storm mechanic came out, I felt what true damage was like. Before I even got a chance to think, my maid was already looking at us from above. I was better prepared in the next pack though, making sure I use a big button to keep everyone alive. Well, not that guy. I can heal damage, but I can't heal stupidity. Don't get hit by the giant thunder, dude. And then we got to my worst nightmare. Or so I thought. Turns out someone butt pulled on the way down, so all the panic about the next area went away. We did end up losing our tank in this pull, but because the respawn point is so close, it wasn't even a big deal. We didn't fully wipe, and this meant everyone was full health going into the next pack. so we cleaned it out with no casualties. What I have noticed a big difference in is how long packs live for. Because everyone isn't insanely overgeared, the dungeon takes a little bit longer to clear. Hell, even the bosses that normally go down fast were taking a lot longer to kill. This meant there was also more chances to mess up, which is exactly what happened. I got the debuff on me, passed it on, and instead of my teammate taking the buff off of the other dude, instead he ran away, leaving me to take 2 stacks of the buff. And again, not being swift with my reaction, I was dead before I even knew I was in danger. Because we was taking so long to clear this dungeon, we only had 9 minutes going to the final area. Our tank wasn't doing us any favours either by overpulling. I also had a misplay on the final pack before the boss. I didn't pop a defensive, so I slowly died. This may not seem like a big deal, but these little misplays soak up a lot of time, especially when you're on a time crunch. Having 4 minutes on the clock going into the final boss, I felt like we had this one in the bag. It's not insanely hard to heal, and I had good positioning, so my atonement was hitting most of my teammates. The pools were being dropped in the right places, and we was handling mechanics with no problems. And then my tank did the unthinkable. That motherfucker walked straight off the map. I noticed it at the time, but not being talented into grip, our chances of timing this key went from 100 to 0 in a matter of seconds. You could be angry at this, or you could just choose to laugh it off.
How do you fall in? How does that happen? You fall in.
Even though we didn't time this key, the confidence is now there to keep going. So in the next episode, we will time every dungeon on a 10. Remember to leave a comment about what you want to see next. And as always, if you like the content, subscribe. If you made it this far, we already know you like the content, so subscribe anyway. Like, comment, all of that good stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. Welcome, welcome. We are back with another episode of Zero to Hero, Healer Edition. This is the final episode of the series. So far, we've climbed ourselves out of Healer Hell and finally made it into the big boy leagues. Well, not really the big boy leagues, because despite finally doing 10s, you still find people who don't have a clue what they're doing. Hell, in the last episode, I had a tank who just straight up walked into death, which ruined the entire key.
Are you stupid or something?
The goal for this episode is to time every dungeon on a +10. So far, we've free chested a 10 motherload and failed a rookery. So strap in, because you're in for a good one. Believe me.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
What I've learned about healing, no matter how hard you try, you can't heal stupid. So if your teammates instantly die before you even get the chance to heal them, most of the time, if not all the time, it's on them. Even now we've reached 10s, I still don't have a clue how to heal this first boss in Cinderbrew. I'm basically always on the brink of death, but despite all that, we still make it out alive. I have finally figured out where to position myself though, so now I can safely heal the dot without needing to worry about being slapped up by a bunch of angry drunks. People, and when I say people, I mean the tanks. They have no chill when it comes to pulling in these dungeons. I've always said if you want to time these 10s, hell, even 13s these days, all you gotta do is go slow and steady. Pulling 3 hobgoblins and a bunch of casters is not taking it steady. Another thing, you tanks need to finish off your mobs before pulling the next pack, because my tank decides to start the next pack before finishing his dinner. My dumbass started getting licked up by a bunch of honey droplets. I would normally be okay with this, but knowing this is going out to the general public, I can't have this information being let out. Even when I ran my sweet cheeks over to him, it still took him a good minute to grab the aggro from me. And before I knew it, I was 6 feet under. We got back up though, but I instantly died again. Our tank obviously didn't die because blood DKs never die, so we returned and finished off the boss. But this is where I started to crash out. Some of these pulls were just standard pulls, but you can tell the group was struggling, and a normal person would realise this and go a bit easier. But no, almost every pull it felt like I was fighting for my life. All this karma did finally catch up to the tank though, and on the next pull, he either ran out of buttons or just didn't press any, because 1 minute he's alive and the next minute, he wasn't. The game knew I was tilted towers at this point and decided to throw some more fuel into the inferno. Yo, press a button. Press any CC button. Oh my gosh, man. I can't believe I got double fucking whammied there. This is really frustrating. To piss me off even more, these fuckers decided to take all the closest bees. Why would they... Breathe. These guys are really annoying. this is a valid reason to crash out. Even though we had 20 deaths and I was crashing out, we wasn't exactly failing the key. We had 2 DPS that was actually doing decent damage, and an Evoker that was, well, I don't really know what he was doing, but he was participating, which counts for something, I guess. We closed out the 10 Cinderbrew with 4 minutes to spare, securing us our second time 10. While I cool off, I'll just let this first pull play out. Decent first pull, right? Yeah, I thought the same. What I didn't expect though was my tank to go full psycho. We just exhausted every cooldown we had in the last pack, then this dude decides to pull this. Like, come on. Honestly, I don't even know what he was thinking with this pull. I managed to keep most of the group alive just on pure faith, bless up. But after a while, I guess my tank ran out of buttons and just fell over. This dungeon was probably the worst dungeon I've done all season. I don't know if you guys can relate, but it just felt like no one was pressing any defensive buttons. I'm not too sure what my HPS is meant to be, but 2 million seems like a lot for such a small pull.
Don't pull this. For God's sake.
I still stand by what I say. That pull sucks, and if you do it, you suck. From that pull alone, I just know this tank will be going insane. And a few pulls later, I witnessed just that. I know this pull isn't crazy, it's just not needed. If I was the tank, I would clear this pack solo and take the mini boss with the casters on the left, but I'm sure you'll see that in the next video I make. I'm cooking up something real good, so there might not be an upload for a little while, but I promise it's going to be worth the wait. If you've enjoyed this series though, show me some support by leaving a like and a comment. I also forgot to mention what I'm doing next. At the moment, it's between Marksman Hunter and Retro Druid, but just coming off healer, I really don't want to do that again. Maybe next season, okay? As you can see, that pull wasn't successful. And I know I didn't use it defensive, but I just didn't expect to get blasted that fast. We took it slower in the next attempt. Or so I thought we did. It didn't take long for the group to pull an even more insane pack.
Alright, so we just failed it a second ago, then you go and pull it again. Smart. Oh, I hate this game.
You'd think we'd learn by the third attempt, but no. We did manage to make it to the end of the pack, but again, I got blasted. On the run back, my tank decided to pull the Lynx pack without me there, so a bunch of people get bleeds on him, and before I can even set up, people was already dropping like flies, and at this point, I just gave up.
I swear to God, not a single person was popping healing mechanics there, or defensives. I promise you they was not pressing any buttons. Holy shit, that was annoying. I hate that dungeon. Fuck, I hate that dungeon so bad. Pull like an absolute psychopath, man. I'm done actually. I'm not playing. I'm done.
We took a well-deserved break and came back the next day, rejuvenated and ready to go. The first dungeon back, and we easily timed it. The only part that triggered me was when the Blood DK and the Mage decided to battle during the Zav boss. They was out here popping healing pots just to win a duel. The sad thing is though, that Blood DK was 682 eye level and almost lost to a 647 Mage. Like, how? The next dungeon, our star boy decided to go AFK for a few minutes, which isn't a big deal. We was blasting the packs, so I wasn't worried about timing the key. But when the packs drag out for a long time, they start becoming really hard to heal. And it got to the point where there was so much heal absorbs on my team, there was nothing I could do to get us out this gunk we was in. The next few deaths was where my hunter did the classic and insta died, and then I did the classic and got hit by multiple abilities at once and died. Like I said, I wasn't worried about timing the key, so we easily two-chested it with almost 10 minutes to spare.
If you're at range, you're always standing melee of this boss because that magnet does so much damage. That was like any higher key, they would have been dead. I would have been dead.
The next dungeon, again, we easily timed it, but there was a few frustrating moments, like when my team aggroed the boss and my dumbass didn't see the big swirl of death. Or when my tank didn't use Sigil of Change to group up the mobs. I'm just being petty at this point, but seriously, this dude didn't use a single Sigil until like 10 minutes into the dungeon.
One, you have silence, you have chains, use it. Oh, he's used it. He's used it. It only took him 9 minutes and 34 seconds to finally use chains. He's incredible.
But like I said, we still two-chested a dungeon, so it wasn't a big deal.
Right, I've had the worst luck when it comes to this dungeon. I literally cannot do it. I cannot heal anybody in this dungeon. Doesn't matter if I'm on cocaine. Doesn't matter if I'm on Adderall. I just cannot do it. But we're going to be locked in on this one. Locked in. The comms are going to be clear, and we're going to get Keystone Hero. End of.
I thought I was going to crash out on the very first pull, but luckily the crisis was averted. And guess what? I had a tank that finally understands that slow and steady wins the race. He still did this dumbass pull, but hey, baby steps. He was really hard to heal on the first boss though. I don't know if this is a pally thing, but if you go back and watch every priory I've healed this series, you can see I've always struggled to keep paladins alive. I have no idea if it's a me issue or what. Thankfully though, we didn't fully wipe and we took down the first boss. I had a few more deaths this dungeon, one being just before the second boss. I just wasn't locked in. I could have easily saved myself here, but I just didn't expect back-to-back abilities to get sent my way. The next death again, I got banged by Sacred Toll, and then got the life sucked out me by some glowing piece of shit. Those were the only deaths that happened this dungeon, and we finally completed a 10 Priory, my most hated dungeon this season. We also got Keystone Hero, but we're not done just yet.
Final thoughts on Priest. I mean, I got Keystone Hero. It wasn't really insanely hard. You just needed teammates who interrupted, used the defensives. But most of the time it was just hell to heal. So you only really have like one burst window and it happens like every 15 seconds, but if you don't align it at the right time, people will just die. So that's the only thing that's really annoying about it. The spec is good. A lot of people were suggesting Oracle, but I was just like stuck in the mud and was like, you know what? I'm not gonna ignore everyone and just go Void Weaver anyway. And we did it. We got Keystone Hero, but can we get to 3k? That is the question. Do we continue or do we not?
Yeah, we're not continuing. The views are dropping faster than my mental health, so I'm going to save everyone the trouble and say, let's bury this bad boy and move on. We finally timed that 10 Rookery, and all that's left now was a 10 Floodgate. But I ended up getting a paladin with an ego the size of his mum's belly. Massive. The key was going fine, but he decided to troll and aim the orb into the entire group. But what I just don't get is why he blamed me. Like, we have a paladin barely doing less damage than a tank, and don't even get me started on the tank. This dude did the duo boss first, which just completely threw me off. But no, let's blame the healer that played perfect the whole dungeon and never made any simple mistakes that could have easily been avoided. We ended up finding a better group and easily two-chested the 10 Floodgate. And with that finally in the bag, we officially timed all the dungeons on a +10. And that concludes our healing journey. Did I enjoy it? Yeah, I loved it. But I do hope you guys did enjoy it. I also forgot to mention my dungeon tier list, so here it is with zero explanation. If you like the content, subscribe. If you made it this far, we already know you like the content, so subscribe anyway. Like, comment, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.